a midterm review going on. I think what people are interested to know from you is the coalition going to go on, is it going to be business as usual, or is there going to be a change of tone? I think a number of your colleagues were indicating that after the failure of Lord's reform, that you're going to be fighting the Lib Dem corner harder.
Well, in that sense, there's going to be no change at all. I fight the Lib Dem corner every day and will continue to do so. And clearly, with the passage of time, you learn how to win battles as well as concede others. And I think
You've got better at that, do you think?
Well, look, I think if you look at the record of the things that we're delivering as a government, many of them are pure 100% Liberal Democrat ones. I mean, the centrepiece of the last much criticised budget, actually, when you strip away all the headlines, was a huge tax cut for over 20 million basic rate taxpayers in this country, which will come into effect next April, for instance. But I think clearly, as we approach the next general election, the two parties in the coalition will start focusing on setting out their stall to the British people. But there is still a lot of work for us to be done, and I'm very clear in my own mind about what our priorities should be.
So what are those priorities? What do you want to be judged on in the next 2.5 years? I'm not talking about what's already been achieved in the coalition agreement and what indeed has failed, but what are the new things you want to do?
I'd single out the following. I mean, firstly, and of course, most importantly of all, is completing the journey we're on to repair the extraordinary damage that was inflicted upon the British economy by the Labour Party's negligence in the last government and the banking crash in 2008. And I mean, there's lots and lots of aspects to that, but repairing the banking system, getting money into infrastructure, getting money to people's pockets through tax cuts, getting money through the new business bank that we've announced today into the hands of households and businesses that need it, making sure that young people can get onto the property ladder. That remains our priority. But secondly, I would also single out a social objective, which is to ensure that whilst we repair the economy, we also make Britain a more socially mobile place so that youngsters and young children can live out their dreams, live out their aspirations. Again, that has many aspects to it, and I think we've put in place some very big reforms: the pupil premium in education, extra help for 2, 3 and 4-year-olds before they even go to school, and we will do more of those kind of things. And if I may single out two other things: firstly, to boost what I'd call the green economy, which is a great competitive opportunity for our country, where I worry sometimes we're sending out mixed signals, and we need to send out a clear signal that we're going to back that, and some long-term changes which won't come to fruition in this Parliament but will in future Parliaments. For instance, finally fixing our broken social care system so that the elderly have decent and affordable care provided to them.
Returning to the broken economy, some very tough decisions are going to have to be taken there. Your Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Dali Alexander, was just saying on the conference floor there would have to be £16 billion worth of tax in the year 2015-16. How are you going to carry those out?
Well, what we have been setting out very clearly this conference, and I'm proud of the fact that, as on so many issues, the Liberal Democrats are once again ahead of the curve and actually asking the big questions that people aren't asking them today, but we will need to confront as a country in 2015, and that is simply this: that whoever is in government after the next election, Labour, Conservative or the Liberal Democrats, or any combination of the three, will need to make further savings. And then the question is, who pays? Who pays? And without going into lots of detail, which we will need to enter into in government in the coming months, we are simply saying what you've got to do as a matter of principle, reflecting our values as a party of fairness, is start at the bottom, work down, not the other way around.
Indeed, but what you have also said is that the welfare budget, huge part of public spending, third of public spending, that can't remain immune.
No, it can't remain immune.
What are you going to look at there?
Well, I think there are lots and lots. I mean, the welfare system is extremely complex. As you know, it's over £200 billion worth of expenditure, and it includes not just benefits to those out of work, but other forms of benefits, and of course also pension entitlements. I'm not going to propose to write or announce on this programme a sort of line-by-line analysis.
I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking you for a direction of travel.
What we will seek to do at each step of the way, and this is, you're right, exceptionally difficult when you're dealing with welfare, because by definition, people who receive benefits are those who are less lucky in many cases, and of course poorer than many others in society. Doing so progressively or as fairly as possible is a very difficult thing to do, and that is what we will try and do. We will try and do it as fairly as possible. You can only do that, by the way, unless you ask people at the top to make a contribution, so you don't have to only ask the vulnerable and those dependent on benefits to make all the contributions.
I will come on to that. But can I offer a suggestion which has come from one of your own junior ministers, and that's the kind of benefits that older people receive. Don Foster told us, why should he be getting winter fuel allowance?
Well, we have ruled out in the coalition agreement changing what are called age-related universal benefits, free TV licenses, winter fuel payments, and free bus passes.
Do you regret doing that?
Well, it was something that was insisted upon not only by the Conservatives, but I think it was something that we felt for this Parliament was not right. My own view is for the future, I think it would be very difficult to explain, and it would be quite interesting if you could ask the Labour Party for this, because they seem to want to defend that.
Okay,
I don't know,
Peter's.
No, but
I'm
can I
asking
just,
you.
no, but can I just say, they appear to be saying that at a time when people's housing benefit is being cut, we should protect Alan Sugar's free bus pass. Now, I think there are many sort of millionaires in this country who perhaps not during this Parliament, because as I say we have a clear coalition agreement, but in the future will, much in the spirit that I'm saying that people of considerable wealth want to make a contribution, will also say voluntarily, in fact some of them are doing so already, that maybe they should give up some of those universal entitlements to help people who are less lucky than them make ends meet.
That's very interesting you say that, and that'll take you part of the way. George Osborne says he's looking at £10 billion worth of welfare cuts.
That's not going to happen, because that was a theoretical illustration, if you like, which George Osborne set out in the autumn statement, which is if you did nothing else, you'd have to take 10 billion. If you did nothing else and you wanted to keep the savings on the same rate for other departments as they presently are, you'd have to take £10 billion out of welfare. What we are saying loud and clear, what I'm saying as leader of the Liberal Democrats in this conference, is there are other options, and one of those options, as I say, is asking people at the very top, not middle Britain as the Daily Mail somewhat hysterically declares, but those people at the very top.
You say people at the very top. What you actually said was people in the top 10%. Now, according to the IFS, people in the top 10%, that starts at people on incomes at £47,000 a year. Those aren't millionaires, are they?
No, I'm not saying they're millionaires. I'd say two things. Firstly, don't lightly dismiss 90% of the population. That is the vast majority of people on this. And I'm afraid, whilst the editor of the Daily Mail might not be aware of this, the average income in this country is about £24,000. The kind of income that the editor of the Daily Mail gets is unimaginable to many people on average incomes.
But
and that is, it is the vast.
Talked about the top 10%.
But let me explain. I make no apology whatsoever for the Liberal Democrats standing squarely on behalf of and campaigning in the name of the vast, vast, vast majority of people in this country. As it happens, economists, as you may know, describe the so-called distributional effects of decisions that governments take according to deciles. And as the name implies, that's the top 10%, the bottom 10%, and so on.
Which you accept starts at 47,000.
What I'm saying is
that
what I accept is that the way in which people describe the distributional effects of government decisions is in the terms of the bottom 10% and the top 10%. What we have focused on is not the whole of the 10% of the top of the bottom. What we have focused on is those. From that. No, I've moved away from it at all. What I've said is that our principal focus always has been and will remain to focus on those people who have very, very, very large, high-value assets, especially in property, which is not properly or fairly reflected in the tax system at the moment. Thus our mansion tax, a small 1% levy on the value of properties over £2 million.
And a different way of perhaps achieving the mansion tax would be to introduce new council tax bans. And there are reports this is something that you're thinking about doing. Is that on the table? If
you don't mind, I've refrained all week, and I'm not going to break the habit now of entering into the detail of various means by which you could ask people at the very, very top, and particularly those living in very high-value properties, to make a contribution. We have our proposal, a simple 1% levy on the value of properties over $2 million, and that is our lead proposal, if you like, that we will continue to argue for.
You'll continue to argue that, but I think you are leaving open the possibility of looking at council tax.
I've been very open about the fact that I have not so far, self-evidently, persuaded George Osborne and David Cameron to ask people who live in houses of over £2 million to make a little extra contribution. For one reason or another, they don't want to do that. I think there's a good case for that. If other people have other means by which the same principle is delivered, then of course I'll be keen to look at that.
I wanted to talk a little bit before we end about you yourself. Politics isn't your entire life, as you've often made clear. Can you envisage life beyond politics? Your mother told the Financial Times that she could see you working for Greenpeace or Amnesty.
Did she? I'm not sure how much Greenpeace or Amnesty necessarily always welcome. No, actually, I'm a great supporter of both those organisations. But look, I'm 45 years old. I have 3 young children. I'm full of energy. I've never believed that it is healthy, actually, for people to dedicate themselves obsessively to politics all their lives. But having said all of that, I am also very clear in my own mind that I have started this journey, which is not about my personal journey. It's a journey in which the Liberal Democrats, the party I love and lead, has gone from opposition to government in the most extraordinary, controversial circumstances, and I have a duty and I have a will and I have a wish to see that journey through. We're only halfway through that journey, and of course it's been very, very controversial, and of course we've had sort of chunks bitten out of us from our critics on the right and the left, but what you don't do at that moment is flinch. You don't bail out when it gets tough. You see it through, and I think we'll see it through, and I think if we hold firm, as we will, actually many, many people will come to not only admire what we've done, but also support us come the general election in 2015.
Your wife had to spend your 12th wedding anniversary here at the conference. It's not the most romantic of dates, is it?
Not the most. Well, it's lovely here in Brighton.
Well, what do your family think about you fighting the next election?
Oh no, Miriam is fully supportive of me doing so, and not only supportive, but that's exactly what will happen, because I've led my party from opposition into government. I'm very proud of what we're doing in government. I understand that we've suffered a sort of considerable cost in our public standing. But what I know, perhaps more than anyone else in politics, is that what goes up goes down, and what goes down goes up. And the way to show the British people that we've done the right thing is to show them by 2015 we've stuck to the course and delivered greater optimism and hope for their children in the future.
But when you hear your colleague Vince Cable being interviewed and he refuses to rule out standing for Leave It, do you think he's on manoeuvres?
I would say exactly the same thing if I was in Vince's position. It's a ridiculous question to ask Vince to sort of rule things out forever and anon. He's quite right to give his response. Vince and I work incredibly well together. We work closely together. I'm a great admirer and close colleague of Vince. And if it wasn't for Vince and David Laws and Danny and myself and other members of the top team in the Liberal Democrats, we wouldn't be delivering fairer taxes. We wouldn't be delivering more apprenticeships than has ever been delivered before by any government. We wouldn't be delivering the largest cash increase in the state pension. These are things which help people in their everyday lives, of which we are all immensely proud.
Nick Clegg, many thanks indeed for joining us.